My name is Joe. I'm excited to make this, but I improved my marathon time from 4 hours and 44 seconds to 3 hours, 2 minutes, and 9 seconds in 1 year. And I wanted to tell anyone who will listen how I did that. I was a casual runner until I met Keith, who was a classmate obsessed with running really far. I was helping him run one of his 100-mile races when we threw out the idea of seeing how fast we could do a marathon. I ran my first marathon about 4 months prior to that conversation. The day was the hottest it's been for that race in over 20 years, and I got a time that didn't feel satisfying. We're in our last year of grad school, and with all the grad requirements out of the way, we had all the time we could need to dedicate to training. I looked online for a free training plan. Daniels, Fitz, and Hansen's all came up, but we went with the Boston Athletics Association Level 4 plan because 1, we wanted our fastest marathon to be under 3 hours, and 2, the BAA plan hands you suggested paces, which the other plans made you work out based on recent performances. We didn't really have any recent performances and just wanted to train as if we could run a sub 3. The BAA plan was simply the path of least resistance. As a baseline, this is a 5K I ran before we started the block. This is the best example of my fitness going in. We also started running consistently at least 5 days per week and about 35 miles per week in the 2 months leading into the plan. This plan organizes runs based on suggested 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon paces. For a sub 3 marathon, it suggests a 6-minute mile 5K, 6:18, 10K, 6:38 per mile half marathon, and then a 6:55 per mile full. We decided to aim a little faster to try and improve our odds on race day and completed all the workouts at a 5 to 10 second faster standard. So we aimed for about a 5:55 per mile for 5K efforts, 6:10 per mile for 10K efforts, 6:30 per mile for half marathon efforts, and 6:45 per mile for marathon paced efforts. This was tough, but the plan worked up well, and I never felt incapable of a workout. This plan gets you up to 50 miles per week pretty quick and holds you there for a while, peaking at around 62 miles per week. Because we started early, we added 3 weeks to the build phase and 1 week to the work phase to make it a 24-ish week plan. My main hurdle with increasing mileage was blisters. I have flat feet and couldn't find a shoe that didn't rub on my arch. I found this article suggesting that less arch support and a more straight-lasted neutral shoe would be better. With this advice, I found the Saucony Echelon 9s, and my blisters just disappeared. There's a lot of info out there on blister prevention, like proper socks, antiperspirant products, and foot balm, but the best thing you can do is find a pair of shoes that work for you. It's so subjective that other neutral straight-lasted shoes like my New Balance 1080s also gave me blisters. You just got to find what works. On the topic of shoes, I got really into them. After the workouts started going well, I decided to invest in a speed shoe. Since Saucony was working so well, I looked into their options and found one of the most talked about speed shoes, the Saucony Endorphin Speed 2s. This is the old model, so I bought a pair for like $80 off Amazon. It's incredible how a speed shoe changes a workout. Just the weight difference gave me a boost even before mentioning the energy return and the spring. I had a hard time justifying a shoe rotation, but finding something that made running fast actually fun made them probably the best return on investment during my block. These are not flat foot compatible shoes, but because the majority of my miles were ran in proper flat foot shoes, the speeds never caused a issue. I think that made a big difference in what shoes I could tolerate. There was a hot spot from the heel counter on one of my speeds for my larger foot, but I found Engo patches did wonders here and wherever I needed some relief. As training continued to go well, especially with the Speed 2s, I started thinking about getting a carbon-plated racer. I wanted to show up on race day having given myself every opportunity to run my best, and this felt like a necessary step towards that goal. I was convinced that I wasn't fast enough to see a benefit, but I found this article about the Nike Vaporfly 2s improving running economy even for slower runners. There's also plenty of anecdotes, but the most compelling was from this PhD who tested his personal running economy with different carbon racers. The cost of carbon racers could be prohibitive, but with my success in Saucony's and the price of last year's Pro 2s being $80, it felt like a good, frugal way of getting into a proper race day shoe. Unfortunately, they didn't really work for me. I did a few easy runs and 2 workouts, the last being a 20-mile run with 10 easy and 10 at marathon effort. My joints were so stiff afterwards. I also had new hot spots on both of my Achilles and 3 new blisters between my toes. I was hoping that the fit would be the same as the Speed 2s, but it feels narrower. The stiffness was also less forgiving, which might have been helping my running economy, but it just felt more taxing than what it was worth. They really beat me up. I enjoyed running in the Speed 2s far more, so they became my race day shoe. This was also my first experience with nutrition. My friend didn't like gels that required water intake just to break even on hydration. So all the typical gels were out. There's a running coach on YouTube I enjoy, Ben Parks, who recommended Science and Sport, an isotonic gel that didn't require water intake. Our only real other isotonic option was Merton, which was double the price. Science and Sport ended up working really well for us. We tried their variety pack from Amazon and eventually settled with their electrolyte and 75 milligram caffeine versions. During long efforts, we'd swap electrolyte and caffeine every other gel, which is what Ben Parks endorsed. Towards the end of our cycle, we started seeing this P65 warning about lead in the product. This was only on the caffeinated gels. This warning seems to only be required by California. I could not find anything online about the quantity of lead needed to have this warning. Lead poisoning is serious, but because we're neither pregnant nor children, and because we reasoned that higher lead levels would probably get the product pulled from the shelves, we concluded that whatever dose of lead we were getting from the 2 to 4 gels per week probably wasn't putting us in too much danger. I live in an old apartment building too with old pipes, which isn't uncommon for America and probably exposing me to far more lead than these packets. Although it was kind of an uncomfortable choice, we decided to keep using Science and Sport. This way we wouldn't have to switch nutrition so late. My strategy was 1 gel about every 35 minutes, but you should see what works for you. I did a run where I took a gel every 30 minutes, and I started to feel too full, or I had no issues with 35. This is also what I did on race day. Hydration also became a lot more important with this kind of training, and electrolytes are key. Finding something with a high sodium level was the most important, followed by a balanced electrolyte profile, including potassium, calcium, and magnesium. I found a table that demonstrated the electrolyte content of sweat and figured that'd be the standard I looked for. I tried a few different products, but ultimately ended with Tailwind. I'd use their caffeinated version in a 1.5 liter water pack during our long runs, and I just drank to thirst, which is also what I used on race day. And I use their non-caffeinated powder in 1 liter of water about once a day to maintain good hydration. We ran most of our runs in the afternoon. My routine before a run included drinking at least 500 mils of water in the 90 minutes leading up to a run. This was especially important before the tough workouts. I didn't want to run hungry, so I tried to have a bagel, toast, Pop-Tarts, or even like a protein bar at least 90 minutes before. And then just before the run, as like a warm-up, I would do about 10 leg swings forward and back on each side, starting low and then stretching a little more each swing. This seemed to alleviate a lot of my quad and hamstring pain. I would roll each ankle gently clockwise and then counterclockwise about 5 times. This seemed to alleviate my ankle aches. And then I'd do 10 high knees and 10 butt kicks. And then I just do the run. This looks like less than the bare minimum from other pre-run routines that I've seen, but I was able to manage and it seemed to work well. After each run, I'd stretch my quads and my calves. I'd stretch from my toes with my feet together, and then I'd stretch from my toes with my feet apart. I'd eat something carb-rich within the first 30 minutes post-run as well. Eating this soon after the run is really important, as it seems that this is when the body is most primed for recovery and looking for nutrients. Most sources recommend something that has a carb to protein ratio of 3-to-1, which I found most protein bars to be a good fit for. And then I would subsidize with milk and just try to eat a meal within the next few hours. For recovery, besides the steps I took post-run, I also tried to maintain a good higher protein intake. I couldn't find much research online supporting protein intake for endurance athletes, as much of the research is on protein for resistance training, but I reasoned that endurance running would inevitably lead to muscle damage, which would require those essential amino acids to repair. I've seen suggestions range from 1 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, which is a pretty wide range. Run.nrg on Instagram offers a lot of great tips for free. One of their coaches, Becky Briggs, is a nutritionist and elite athlete, and she offered the following info. This is a good summary from most of the anecdotes and research I've read. For this reason, I did supplement with 1 scoop of protein powder, at least after my hard workouts, but mostly increased my intake of eggs, fish, and meats in general. Carbs are vitally important, and they were my main food group. This made my diet of toast, boxed mac and cheese, other pasta, and PB&J actually seem like a pretty good diet. I like having some basis for my approach, and that turned out to be this graph. I'm no elite runner, but seeing how dominant carbs are to excellent performance helped alleviate any stress I had about eating an otherwise poor diet. On occasion, I'd use like a vibrating muscle gun or compression socks when I felt particularly sore. I also got a massage after my last big workout, but I think being sore from this kind of schedule is unavoidable. I did have a few personal setbacks on January 11th during mile reps. I pushed the pace for the last mile and pulled a muscle in my groin. After a few days off, I slowly returned to activity with an emphasis on stopping activity if there was any pain. This worked well, and I could resume the workouts at the end of January. On the final peak week, I got a GI bug and a 103 fever that replaced some easy days and hurt my workouts. It seems that runners are pretty susceptible to getting sick during peak training weeks because of the added stress. More generally, I had a lot of GI issues with long runs, especially the workouts that made me more nervous. Over-the-counter anti-diarrheal meds worked really well here, and I highly recommend that if you've had GI issues affecting your running, you look into these. I specifically used a generic for anti-diarrheal and anti-gas. It was a combination pill of loperamide and simethicone. I take it once a day in the evening in the 1 or 2 days leading up to a big workout or the race, and I had no issues otherwise. For mentality, I'm a pretty nervous guy in general, so sinking so much time into one event inevitably led to a lot of anxiety. I found motivation watching Nick Baer train for his marathons, but a turning point was watching Kofuzi's breakdown of his Tokyo Marathon. He talks about how a sub-3 or any time goal is a continuous, conscious decision, and you have to continue to choose it even at the most difficult parts of the race. In the weeks leading up to the race, even the night before, I'd resolved to run at least under 3:10. This felt achievable and took away some of the apprehension. This goal slowly adjusted to just run a good race, emphasizing just relaxing and finding a groove. I think that helped take my mind off of how much of an undertaking trying for a sub-3 would be on race day. Some mantras I told myself were leave it on the course and slow is smooth, smooth is fast. My goal ultimately became sub-3 right at the end of the night before the race. I like looking at race pace equivalency calculators, and one said that running a sub-3 marathon was comparable to an 1846 5K. I run a lot of 5Ks, and with that fitness I had leading up to the marathon, a sub-19 5K seemed very doable. I also ran a 5:28 mile during one of my mile repeat workouts, which also compared to a sub 3 on some calculators. This gave me the confidence I needed to even try for sub 3. And when I got to the line feeling good, I decided to just go for it. For the race itself, I carb loaded for 4 days leading up to the race. The start, I felt great. My half split was 1:27.12, which was way too fast. I figured I could just fall back to 6:50s and clean up the sub 3 pretty easily. This is definitely where my inexperience comes in, because mile 22 quickly turned into the pain cave. My legs kept getting heavier with each step, no matter how much I bargained and tried to stride out. I was hoping my bang time could preserve a chance at sub 3, but that's definitely inexperienced talking. If I paced properly, I don't think I would have bonked so hard. On the race, I ran with that 1.5 liter water pack with caffeinated Tailwind. I did this because it worked well for all my training runs, and it's just what I knew. I supplemented with on-the-course hydration. They had Gatorade and water, and this helped my pack get all the way to the end. I think this worked well for me. I didn't feel dehydrated at all. I ended up only doing 5 gels. I didn't do my last one just because I felt pretty terrible at that point, and it didn't feel like it was going to get me back anytime. The 3-hour pacer passed me with like 2 miles to go. He told me to come with him, but I couldn't move my legs that fast. There was just too much fatigue. I'd spent all their go already. I'm pretty happy with the 3:02:09. The plan was a lot of work. It ended up being over 1,300 miles within just that block, but the routine of running paces I was proud of made the journey an unexpected highlight. The weather, taper, nutrition, and hydration all seemed to be as good as possible. My friend that I did pretty much all my training runs with ran a 2:59:28, and I think I could have ran a sub 3, but pacing was ultimately my downfall. For kit, I did all my runs with a Garmin Forerunner 255. I use Garmin's for like a decade now, and I feel very comfortable using their interface. Most important was the ability to create workouts in the Garmin app and have your watch walk through it all. I'm sure every fitness band company offers this ability, but having something like that cannot be understated. I also use the multi-band GPS for my tougher workouts because the instantaneous pace readout is supposed to be more accurate, which seemed to be the case when comparing with my friend's Forerunner 245. My watch was always more accurate. I used body balm for my creases and a fit belt whenever I wanted to bring my phone. I listened to music occasionally, but mostly either talk with my friend or focused on running. For some miscellaneous points, throughout this block, my weight dropped from above 210 to the low 180s. Weight loss was never my goal, and I just kind of ate whenever I was hungry without much thought to calories. But I think your body has a baseline, and mine was naturally lowered as I got more in shape. I am starting a new job after graduation, which will take up a lot more time. So this felt like my last chance at doing something as selfish as training this hard. It was a really educational and humbling experience, and I'm glad I did it, but it'll be tough to do it again. Maybe when the fatigue wears off and I'm not as burnt on running, I'll give it another go. Anyways, thank you for listening. I hope I helped someone, and good luck out there.